Okay, how dairy impacts the body. Here we go. This is a question I get all the time because there's a lot of conflicting information out there about dairy. Dairy gets a bad rap, and dairy is one of those things I really believe it's very individual on whether or not dairy's good for you or bad for you, that type of a thing. So when we talk about dairy, the important thing to remember is that this is right for some people at some times and right for other people none of the times. And I'll go through and explain a little more about that. But if you are looking at how do I know if dairy is right for me, what can I really decipher here? A lot of times it has to do with your own gut health and whether or not you're going to have an inflammatory reaction to it, which we actually look at with a gut test. So I'm going to put a link in the comments here to work with me in a one-on-one setting if you are interested in learning more about your hormone levels, your gut health, everything else, because it's really important to understand how your body reacts and responds and everything else. Ooh, great question. How about whey-based protein powders? Yes. So dairy, when I talk about dairy, I mean like all dairy, like all the things dairy. Milk, cheese, cottage cheese, yogurt, anything whey-based. Whey proteins, yes, they will have dairy in them. Even if it's lactose-free, whatever, it's still dairy-based. Now, good things about dairy, right? Good things about dairy. So there's a lot of protein in dairy. It is protein packed, and that protein is easy to digest. Typically easy for your system to digest and break down. This is also one of the fastest ways for the human body to build muscle tissue. If you are trying to change your body composition and your stomach can tolerate dairy, boom. This is one of the big key things to add in. Yes. So those are good things about dairy. Bad things about dairy is that it can be inflammatory. Yeah, it can be inflammatory. What does that mean? It makes your system mad. For some people, it's gut digestive issues. Some people get diarrhea, get bloating, all that stuff. Other people will have heartburn, skin issues. So I think somebody just commented about psoriasis. Yep. Yeah, exactly like that. Some people can break out in acne more. It also is mucus producing. It increases mucus production in your system. So this is something when my kids were even little, and if they got a cold or something, I would take them off of dairy just for a couple of days until their, snotty nose cleared up. Boom, it clears up so much faster because it just gets rid of that extra mucus in the body. Now, mucus, of course, builds up as a reaction to something, but when you got a little kid running around just snotting all over, you don't want to... right? Or they can't sleep because they're so stuffy. This is one of those things that can help. Now, again, did I take them off of dairy forever? No, it was just a temporary thing to help clear their systems out. So for each person, you might have to really go through and assess how your system's reacting, responding to dairy, to whether or not it's right for you. Some people get digestive issues. Some people don't. Some people have other health issues, skin issues, joint pain, muscle aches, all that stuff because they have dairy. Yeah. Or they'll break out more. They'll get like greasy hair or something from dairy. How do you really know if dairy is the right or wrong thing for you? An elimination of it and then adding it back in. So if you cut dairy out for at least a week, and if you notice any positive changes in your gut, then dairy could be part of that. And then if you add dairy back in and you're like, oh no, this is not good. Yeah. Now, one of the reasons I do gut testing is I actually look at the bacteria in your digestive system to see if your bacteria, your natural microflora there is strong enough to support the breakdown of dairy. Yeah. Or if you already have a lot of mucus in your gut, this is going to increase it. Again, is that something you'd have to avoid dairy forever? Not necessarily, but at least to get your gut rebooted a little bit, then to add it back in and your body can actually do the right thing with it that you want it to do. Yes. Now, what about being lactose intolerant? As humans, as we grow, the enzymes, like from being little, right? Like babies, infants, toddlers, kids, all the way up, our systems can change and have different enzymes that are active. So oftentimes our enzyme profile changes, as we're young kids, and that can change, right? So for adults to consume a lot of dairy that is not in an easy digestible form can be tough, right? So you're not alone on this. Now, the super hard thing about this is that dairy is delicious. Butter, I'm sorry. It's the best. I had somebody message me. I'm laughing because I had somebody message me and she was like, how do you cook this? I'm trying to cook these things and I really want to like them, but I just don't like them. How do you cook them so they taste good? And I was like, listen, my husband is like one of the most amazing chefs ever. He's an amazing cook. And he worked, when he was in high school and stuff, he worked at this like super fancy restaurant in their town. And and he learned all these fancy cooking tips there to make the food taste really good. I'm laughing because the fancy cooking tip that he uses most often is butter. It's butter. He uses butter, a lot of butter and stuff. And he made dinner tonight and he made salmon burgers and salad and potatoes. And I was like, wow, these potatoes are really good, babe. I was like, what seasoning did you use? What did you do to them? Because they're just incredible. He was like, over 4 tablespoons of butter. Obviously, that's why they're so good. Noted, and I will adjust my intake accordingly. Thank you, babe. So dairy is good. Butter is delicious on things, cooking with it, everything. I am very well aware of that. But again, if you are reacting to it, a lot of times the taste of it is just not worth having that horrible reaction to it. It's just not. Yeah, it's just not. And that's different than, having a little, heartburn or something versus having a skin reaction. And those are very common things that can happen from dairy. Dairy can also give you a little bit of brain fog or feel like your memory isn't quite as sharp. So there's some other things that can happen too with dairy. It can impact your sense of smell, again, mucus, all that stuff, that's related. So why is dairy so available though? Because the proteins are able to be broken down and utilized so quickly by the digestive system. Yeah, so that's why it's sometimes really helpful. Whey proteins, things like that, very, very powerful. Now the protein molecule of dairy, of cow dairy, is different than other forms of dairy, like goat dairy. Goat proteins are smaller. Goat milk proteins are smaller than cow milk proteins. So for some people, especially kids, if they have a problem digesting cow milk, they actually can do goat milk just because the protein molecules are smaller and it's easier on the gut. Also something to consider though, if your stomach has a hard time digesting it, then you might want to realize, yeah, I might need to do some gut work. Yeah. Constipation, major itching and inflammation. Yes. Yeah. And that's the funny thing, is that everybody will have a different reaction and response with it. And it does matter too how processed or not things are with dairy. I know it's all over the board. The best thing to do sometimes is just, get a gut test, learn what your system's doing and go forward from there. Otherwise you're guessing and you're trying things left and right. Things like hard cheeses, like sharp cheddar cheese, doesn't have any lactose in it. So if you're worried about the lactose part of it, try some sharp cheddar. There's no lactose in it. If you can handle that, maybe it's the actual lactose you have a problem with. If you can't do that, then it might be the actual dairy part of it. Some people can handle things that are processed differently. Like I have an actual milk allergy. I cannot drink like raw milk. I will vomit. It's an allergy. No. But if dairy's processed, if it's heat, heat is applied, something like that, it can break down certain proteins, and I'm not allergic to that. So I can eat butter or other things. I don't eat a lot of it because it does give me some inflammation, things like that. But it doesn't make me vomit. So again, every body is different. Every system can react differently to dairy. So I don't ever have any hard, fast rules on dairy for people, because there are these benefits to it if your system can handle it. If your system can handle it, great. then you get to have some really cool things happen with muscle building. If not, you know, it's not a terrible thing to avoid, and you can OD on the dairy. As most people know, if they have too much cheese. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah. Also, fun side note, the number one food craving in the world is cheese. Yeah. People who love cheese love cheese. Yeah. And if you've seen the movie Box Trolls, I have kids. I don't watch regular adult TV. I watch kid movies. But Box Trolls, they talk about cheese in there. Anyway, just a fun side note. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. Talking about dairy, talking about what it does for your body and your system. Dairy, just in case you're wondering how to eat for your hormones with this, dairy is warming. Dairy is warming. So you can eat it during the progesterone phase. Yeah, super fun. All right, that's what I got for you guys tonight. Other resources I have for you are my book, The Female Fat Solution. This is on Amazon, talking all about how to eat for your hormones and your cycle. And then my book, The Female Menopause Solution, also on Amazon, talking about nutrition for women in perimenopause and menopause. My podcast is called The Female Health Solution. And then my YouTube channel is called Dr. Beth Westy, where you can subscribe to stay updated on all the things that I do. And if you have any questions, if you want me to do a video or do a deep dive on something that I've mentioned, send me a message, send me a note, and I'd be more than happy to tailor some of this information, because a lot of the videos that I do come from your suggestions. I get questions from women every single day from all over the world, because you're not alone in struggling with your nutrition, with your hormones, with all the things. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating women to make sure you have the right information to make the right next step forward for your health, for you. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. Let me know if you need anything else. Otherwise, I will see you later.